Hey, patrol members. So coming up is a story I call Night of the Stones. Let's see what tonight's cigar is. Zany Libre, 1990. Just poking a hole in it with my penknife. Antique lighter. Well, patrol members, this takes place a long time ago. Late 70s, early 80s. I'm not exactly sure the date, but if I can find the exact time, I'll put it over here somewhere under my cigar. Anyway, we're all sitting around having a cup of coffee. I think it was Brad and Dave and I, or it might have been Dave, Wally, Dave, and I. Anyway, the three of us were sitting around having coffee. And we were trying to think of a prank to pull on the people that weren't with us. We used to get together for coffee, and whoever didn't show up because they were busy doing other things like eating dinner or sleeping or on a date with a girlfriend or work, we just had to do something. So we decided that our friend Don, I shouldn't have said his last name, I'll probably beat that out. We decided that our friend Don needed a giant stone put in his front yard. So we all piled into my Wagoneer. So this had to be, it was the Wagoneer, so it had to be 88. 1988? I can't remember exactly when I bought the Wagoneer, but it was in the 80s. And we drove up into the mountains, a long, windy, dark, moonlit road. And we found a big stone. And basically it took the three of us to lift it into the back of my car. And we took it to Dave's house. And we lowered the tailgate on my Wagoneer, and he began to paint it. It's coming up right now. Oh, and all this is always done in the dead of night. Nothing ever happens in the daytime. We used to do terrible things to each other. We used to put shaving cream all over people's cars and toilet paper, their house or their car. We'd follow them around and then take shoe polish and write things and desecrate their property. And mine got desecrated, Wally's, Dave's, Brad's, Don's, Ed and Mike. Nobody was safe. Nobody was safe. Even total strangers weren't safe. So enjoy this first part.
Warning, warning, warning.
Dave and I and Wally drove up into the middle of the mountains and with his pinnacle, and we got this enormous rock. It took like 3 guys to lift it. And we took it back to Dave's house, and he drew Tokyo 3,800 miles on it, a little headband, you know, and a rising sun on it. And it was right here, in this area, that the rock was. Okay, and now for filming technique, this is where the stone was, and I'm going to make these. Okay, now some experts might disagree, but I'm going to make these wild gestures like this because there's people behind us watching this film, and they're wondering what we're doing. Okay, so this is for their benefit, not yours. This might be the stone. We're going to have to compare it to known photographs, but this just might be it. Now, we're not going to guarantee it, but we still have to compare. We're going to still look around as a possibility. There might be a chunk broken off of it too. See, there's a fissure here. It could be broken off.
This is a schematic diagram of the Hayashi Rock, based on the sole existing photograph, as it was in 1977. Note the parallel surface grooves in the lower quadrant. This overlay demonstrates the exact positions of the acrylic decorations subsequently applied. Unfortunately, the acrylic paint did not survive the 11 rigorous years the rock was in exile. Now, at some point during its exile at the Fashion Plaza, a large chunk was chipped or broken off. The parallel grooves, however, on the lower quadrant were never defaced. This is what's left of the Hayashi stone today. A significant chunk is missing, but the parallel grooves remain to make possible a positive ID.
So, no sooner did we dump the rock off in Don's front yard, and we blew this stadium horn or parade horn. They were big red and purple and yellow and big horns, you know, about 3 feet long, and they're made of blow molded plastic, and you'd blow on them and it would make this loud sound, right? So, and here it is, like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're tooting this horn in Don's front yard. No sooner did Brad blow that horn out the window when Don flew out of his front door, like he was expecting us. Well, he probably was, because he wasn't with us, so he knew we were all out together, so he knew to be on guard. Except he's got a bow and arrow, and he's got these blunt-tipped hunting arrows for, like, when you hunt birds or small animals, it dispatches the animal without leaving a big mess. And these were really popular, especially a couple of 100 years ago in England, where people would have to hunt on private land, and you didn't want the arrow hitting an animal and having it make a bellowing noise or a sound or leave a blood trail that would alert the game warden, right? which could get you hung in those days. Anyway, he flies out of the house shooting this bow at us. And you could hear the arrows hitting the back of my car, bump, 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 you know. And we took off, hell-bent for leather out of there. So I dropped Dave off at his house, and we get back to my place, and Brad gets in his car and he goes. And my phone's ringing at 7 o'clock in the morning. And Dave's like, guess what's in my front yard? I said, what? The stone we left at Don's house. It was in Dave's front yard. I don't know how he got it in his car, but he must have had his brother who lived, he was living with his brother at the time. He must have had his brother help pick it up, right? And his brother's name is Ray, and and we took it like you saw in the video here. The rest is history, right? So I don't know how much later we did the second stone. Could have been months, could have been years, but over here I'll put the approximate date if I can find it. Anyway, once again, now Wally is married by this time, and he's living down in Whittier, right? And with his wife, and we used to do terrible things to each other. I'd say terrible, but we used to do annoying things, like we'd TP each other's houses, or we'd put shaving cream and white shoe polish all over the windows of the car, or we would TP the car. Or I remember one time I got up and my Wagoneer was wrapped in shrink wrap, you know, for like pallet wrap. It was completely wrapped up in that, you know. And I had to cut my way into my car. Or my car was covered once with pie filling, you know, or that type of stuff. And yeah, we used to do that to each other, you know. And I'll tell you what, that's one guy I miss a lot is Wally. Wally was a really, really good friend, and I miss him for that. He's the type of guy that, you know, they say would give you the shirt off his back for his last cent, and you know what, he was that guy. I remember once when we all went to a New Year's party at a buddy of mine's house out in Riverside, and it was Mrs. Patrol and me and Wally. By this time, my daughter was like 17 or 18. She went with her boyfriend to a party, a New Year's party in Burbank, and we're in Riverside, right? So we are, it is way after midnight, and we are getting ready to leave. We're leaving the house in Riverside. We're out in the street. We're all saying our goodbyes when my phone rings, right? I had a big old clunky cell phone, and it's my daughter, and she's stuck. Her boyfriend doesn't have a way to bring her back. Their ride bailed them. So, like, oh my God, how could you, you know, Mr. Patrol and I, we weren't angry, we were really beside ourselves. And Wally just like, oh, I'll go get her. Oh, Wally, you can't do that. Oh, no, it's no problem, it's no problem. So I said, you know what, dude, I'll go with you. So Mr. Patrol took our car home. I hopped in Wally's truck. We drove from Riverside to Burbank, and that was like 100 miles. I remember Wally had already driven 50 miles or more to get to Corbin's house. So now he's got 150 miles on the clock. Driving from Riverside to Burbank is close to 100 miles. We pick up my daughter and bring her home. Okay? Bring her home. And that's another 50 miles back here. So now you're looking at 200 miles. And then he drove home, which is like, he lived in El Monte at the time, which is like 100 miles from our house. Or not 100 miles, I'm sorry, 20 miles. So he's got 200 miles on the clock, 220 miles. So think about that. You have a friend who's in a jam, and you're going to drive 200 miles to help him. Hope you're that good of a friend. 'Cause that's how good he was. And you know, he would not take money for gas. So, anyway, the time frame I'm talking about, Wally is now married and he's living in Whittier, which is, you know, south of where I live. So Brad and Dave and I are, once again, we're in Denny's, we're having a cup of coffee, right? And I, at this time, was between wives, before Mrs. Patrol and I were married. Same car, the Wagoneer. Now, I had that car for almost 24 years. So, yeah. 88, 98, yeah, 20 years, 2008. Yeah, that's when I had to get rid of it because it had serious frame problems. It was cracked. But anyway, we hop in the Wagoneer. We drive way up the lonely moonlit mountain road, just like we did for Don's Rock. We found another big rock, only this was bigger. We had to back up to a hill and roll it down inside to my car, right? So we get into Dave's house, we clean the rock off, and there's a big flat side. So Dave paints a dinosaur on it, and little men shooting arrows in the dinosaur's face, right? Arrows sticking out of his nose. And Dave paints Porkosaurus on the bottom of the rock, because Wally was a big guy. As a matter of fact, I'll poke in so you know what Wally looks like. I'll poke that in here.
Up out front?
There's always cars out.
Oh.
What happened the other night when you
Not my chair.
the other night when you found the Odin stone?
A mug that never lets anything deter. How many did he put in here?
I don't know. I think that one just went off prematurely.
Yeah. That one worked better, Bill. Of course, you got to realize, if you take a look at these guys now, back then when we were young, yeah, I was the fat boy. I was the fat boy, no doubt about it. You look at the guys now, though, I ain't the fat boy no more. I'm one of many. You see that punch on Dave? How about Brad? I'm going to be loading in my pants soon. Hey, Bill, these are great. I never have to flick the ashes. They just pop off by themselves.
Oh, he got me real good with one a few nights ago. I mean, it blew the whole first inch of the cigar all over the front of the car. It just totally annihilated.
Well, that's the way they're supposed to work.
I jumped out of my skin. He laughed to no end. Great. Damn.
Come on, Bill, really, I mean, not often I get a Crooks anymore, you know, you gotta ruin the one I get.
So anyway, that was Wally, right? Anyhow, on the bottom of the rock, Dave takes white paint and paints the word over with an arrow pointing down to the flat side of the rock. And we didn't put anything under it. We drive all the way down to Whittier, and once again, 1 o'clock in the morning, Dave and Brad and I wrestle this big-ass stone into the middle of his lawn. Now, there was one thing about Wally. He was really meticulous about the way he kept his yard. His dad was that way, and he was that way. So, the next afternoon, my phone rings, and it's Wally. Hey, what's up, Wally? Funny, guys, funny. I said, what are you talking about? The rock. So the story is, he gets up in the morning, and Linda's his wife, is looking out the kitchen window into the front yard, and she sees this big, huge stone in the middle of the grass. And she comes in and he goes, "Wally, why is there a giant stone in the middle of our lawn?" And Wally's like, "What?" And he runs out, and they're looking at the front of the stone, and there's the little drawing of the dinosaur and the caveman and Porcosaurus, and it says "over." Now Linda gets down and starts trying to push the rock over. And Linda goes, "Aren't you to help me?" And Wally goes, "No, because there's nothing under there. I know. They put that under just to get me to tip it, and I'm not going to do it." She says, "Well, how do you know unless you look?" He goes, "I know." So she finally flops the rock over, and there's nothing underneath. And she gets really, really mad. Bah! Well, he goes, "Oh, I heard about that the whole rest of the day." So he goes, "You know, I kind of like that rock. I'm going to put it in my garden." So he moves the rock into his flower garden, and they plant flowers around it. And for all I know, that rock is still at that house in Whittier, and the people living there have no idea what that rock is about. Because the rain, Dave used an acrylic paint that is basically water soluble. And over the years, not even years, months, the rain and the sprinklers just washed it clean. So now somewhere in Whittier is a house with a big rock that takes 2 or 3 people to lift, with flowers planted around it. And they just think it's a garden aesthetic. That was the Odin stone.
So what do you think is going through Wally's head right now, Bill? Well, Sue seems to think that Linda would have had a stroke over it, stroke over it, stroke over it, stroke over it, stroke over it. It wasn't that big a rock.
It was only a rock.
I know, but you don't really know Linda that well.
Well, you're right, I don't. I mean, does anybody maybe later on or tomorrow, maybe somebody would like to call Wally and just say hi?
I'll call him. He doesn't know I was with you. He doesn't even know who did it. Well, he knows Dave was here. He knows Bill was there.
Well, the thing is, Brad,
no, it wouldn't even cross his mind that you were there. I can't see why. Why would he think me? What, do you live on another planet? He probably considered you first. No, not with the artwork. Not with the artwork. No, he would say, well, Bill falls asleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so that'll be Dave and Brad.
Those were the days, you know. If I can find any more footage of us rampaging around, I don't know if I'll include it at the end of this because I want to have another video, but yeah, the Odin Stone, Night of the Stones. It may seem silly to people, but man, we had great fun doing that stuff. I wish I knew somebody, I wish I had friends like that now, where I could just go get a giant stone, paint some funny stuff on it, and dump it in their front yard. Those were the days. But now times have changed. It's actually almost dangerous to drive up in those mountains at night. At least, you know, if you're by yourself, I wouldn't do it. Well, I want to thank you all for watching this video. I had fun making this one. Once again, everything was done in the dead of night. We didn't blow the horn at Wally's house when we dropped the stone, and I'll tell you why. Because we didn't want to make his wife really angry. She was going to be angry enough with the stone. As a matter of fact, Brad showed up at my house one night, one evening, and at the time, I don't know what he was doing, but okay, so movie theaters at the end of the night, they clean out all their snack, well, used to, they probably still do the same thing. They clean all the snack bar out, and they would take all the popcorn, and they would put it in big plastic bags, and they would throw it in the dumpster. So I'm going to tell you this last story. There's no footage or pictures of it. And this is the last time we actually did something to Wally's place. So, I called Dave on the phone, and he rushed over here, and we must have had 2 big, like 40-gallon trash bags, the black ones, filled to the brim with old popcorn. We load them into the car, and in the middle of the night we drive to Wally's house, and we dump it on his front porch. And it looked like a snowdrift. Needless to say, when Linda got up the next morning and opened the front door to go out to get the newspaper, Wally heard about it. Now, he wasn't angry at all because he had one of those lawn vacuums. You know, you push on the grass and it sucks up. It was electric, and you could run it around and pick up the leaves in your front yard, and it would bag it in this bag and dump it in the trash. Well, it had an attachment like a shop vac that you could get in the gutters and in the crevices to suck leaves up. He just fired that up, went out in the front yard, and sucked up all that popcorn and bagged it through the trash. And he says, "Oh, it took me less than 15 minutes to clean all that popcorn up." You know, I was going to taste it, but Linda said, "No, don't eat that. You don't know where that's been." You know, so yeah. We pulled 2 more big practical jokes on Wally, but that'll save that for another video, right? Those are pretty funny. One of which I feel guilty about, because I never told him the absolute truth on it, on the practical joke. You know, but, yeah. They're pretty humorous. Now, don't feel bad. They pulled more than their fair share of pranks on Bill. Yeah. A lot of this stuff Dave had videotaped, but I haven't been able to get a hold of Dave in a few years now, and I even once paid to have him searched to see if he was, still with us. And apparently he is, but he's had some severe health problems. Wally was the last guy to talk to him, and what's wrong with this thing? Anyway, I'll light it after we're done with this. Yeah, he's had some bad health. He had some bad health problems, and it was hard for him to leave his house, and we just kind of lost touch. And I'm really sorry about that too. He's just a couple of months older than me. Well, anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. And yeah, Night of the Stones. Nine of Stones, a little insight into my guy, my buddy Wally, and what you said is a great guy, and I miss him. So until next time, later, Mater.